Hello and Happy New Year from all of us here at Euronews. Let's take a look at the latest headlines.
The French government cuts coronavirus isolation periods for fully vaccinated people from 10 to 7 days, while scientists agree the Omicron variant causes less lung damage. Sudanese Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok steps down after months of widespread pro-democracy protests. His resignation throws the country into political uncertainty. And we look at the new law in Austria that allows terminally ill people the right to end their own lives.
France is reducing the isolation period for fully vaccinated people who test positive for COVID-19. From today, January the 3rd, it's being cut from 10 to 7 days. President Macron's government is the latest to reduce isolation periods in a bid to keep the economy functioning as the Omicron variant spreads. France's National Assembly is also set to vote on changing the country's health pass into a vaccination pass. It comes after a record few days in daily new infections topping 200,000, although there was a dip in reported cases following the public holiday. In England, masks are now to be worn in classrooms by secondary school pupils. Their temporary reintroduction aims to keep schools open for face-to-face learning this coming term. With soaring daily infections, cabinet ministers are set to review anti-COVID restrictions for England on Wednesday. In Russia, the authorities in the city of St. Petersburg are introducing tougher measures. All restaurants and bars and public places in general will only be able to admit those who have a negative PCR test or a QR code proving they've been vaccinated. And in Greece, citizens are now being told to use double masks or high protection masks to enter grocery stores and public transport. Meanwhile, as Omicron infections continue to rise, there is a positive. It's a growing consensus among the scientific community that the highly transmissible COVID variant inflicts less damage on the lungs of those infected.
Protesters were involved in scuffles with police in Amsterdam on Sunday as thousands of people took part in anti-COVID demonstrations in the Dutch capital. The city's mayor, Femke Halsema, issued an emergency decree at 1 p.m. on Sunday prohibiting a rally in Museum Square. Given the required social distancing of 1.5 metres, authorities calculated that would allow for a crowd of up to 3,500 people. But the mayor considered that many more than that would turn up, and it would therefore have been impossible to comply with the restriction, and so she went ahead and issued the short-term decree. But another demonstration in the Westerpark district had been approved for a crowd of up to 2,000 people. Officials said by early afternoon that threshold was reached. Due to a strike, the Amsterdam police didn't have its usual mobile intervention force at its disposal. The special unit has been complaining of a high workload and lack of personnel and announced it would only be on hand in the event of serious rioting. As it turned out, the rallies were largely peaceful. Many sectors of the Netherlands' economy and public life are currently lying idle due to the pandemic, including cultural and sports facilities and stores that don't sell food or everyday goods.
Sudan's Prime Minister has announced his resignation. This comes amid political deadlock and months of widespread pro-democracy protests following October's military coup. In an address to the nation, Abdullah Hamdok called for dialogue to agree a national charter and to draw a roadmap to complete the transition to democracy. Prior to his resignation, Sudanese security forces had violently dispersed pro-democracy demonstrators, killing at least 2 people. Hamdok's departure comes less than 2 months after being reinstated as part of an agreement with the military. During that time, he failed to name a cabinet, while his resignation throws Sudan into political uncertainty. October's coup upended Sudan's plans to move to democracy after a popular uprising forced the military to overthrow longtime autocrat Omar al-Bashir.
A large fire has completely destroyed the National Assembly building where parliamentarians sit in the South African city of Cape Town. No casualties have been reported. A 51-year-old man is being held and questioned by authorities, according to the police. President Cyril Ramaphosa visited the scene and called it a terrible and devastating event, but praised the emergency services' hard work.
They have done a fantastic job. Had they not responded in the 6 minutes that they tell me they responded with, I think we would be talking about the National Assembly and the Council of House of Provinces being in ashes, complete ashes.
An investigation has been opened into the blaze, which started in the early hours of Sunday in the complex's oldest wing, which was completed in 1884 and had wood-panelled rooms. Problems with the fire alarm and sprinkler systems have been reported. The Parliament is not currently sitting because of the holidays.
Search teams in Colorado are still looking for 2 missing people among the snow-covered yet smouldering debris after last week's massive wildfire. Colorado's Governor, Jared Polis, toured destroyed neighbourhoods in Boulder County on Sunday after he witnessed firsthand the devastation caused by the massive wildfire. Nearly 1,000 homes and other buildings have been destroyed between Denver and Boulder County. The blaze came unusually late in the year following an extremely dry autumn amid a winter devoid of snow until now. As families trudged through the snow to determine the condition of their homes, one man was brought to tears by what he saw.
You know, the kids' playground is just down the street over there, and I can buy new books, I can buy new furniture, but it's really hard to build back a community and friends and a social network like that.
US President Joe Biden has declared the scenes a national disaster and has freed up federal funds to assist affected people and businesses in their recovery efforts.
A new law has come into effect in Austria, allowing people who are terminally ill to end their own lives. Euronews reporter Johannes Plashberger has more from Vienna.
The prerequisite for assisted suicide in Austria is that the person willing to die must be of age and seriously ill in the long term. 2 different doctors must then confirm this, including whether the person willing to die is at all capable of making such a decision. The lethal drug will be available in pharmacies. Almost all parties have voted in favor of the so-called death decree law, except for the opposition party FPÖ, according to which it has not been clarified what will happen with the lethal drug if it is not or only partially used. Much criticism comes from the Catholic Church, which is dominant in Austria. The chairman of the Bishops' Conference called the legal approval of assisted suicide the most serious event of the past year. The Church had also announced that it would ban the new legal practice in its own hospitals. The new law was prompted by a decision of the Constitutional Court that the previous ban on assisted suicide was unconstitutional. The government then consulted with experts on how best to prevent abuse and reduce the desire for early termination of life. For example, more money will now be made available for hospice and palliative care, because it should not be up to personal circumstances or income levels what care conditions a person finds at the end of life. Johannes Plashberger, Euronews, Vienna.
You're watching Good Morning Europe on Euronews. We'll be back with more shortly.